and welcome to the Lunchtime Cafe with me, Patrick Soko. And interesting enough, we get started on the program. This is a program that comes every Monday to Thursday at 12 hours, immediately after the news on the Lunchtime Cafe, where we get to update you regarding emerging stories that of the day, as well as some forgotten stories. And this is where we take you back in the time and remind you of what happened on a particular day. And today we are looking at the 5th of July 2023 rather, but we'll take you back in the days on the 5th of July 2021, where we get to check out some of the stories that were making the headlines then. And to just get started on the program, we look at the story where the Lusaka City Council then did express concern over a lack of compliance on the COVID-19 guidelines. Then they were checking on lodges as well as bars. They were problematic during the COVID-19 pandemic. As you already know, we had issues pertaining to the COVID-19 enforcement and making sure that people comply to the guidelines that were issued by health authorities. So let's get to start with the Forgotten Story segment there.
While so much emphasis has been placed on following the 5 golden rules, for some it sounds like mere rhetoric as they continue to disregard them. It is to this effect that the Lusaka City Council inspected business premises, including bars, nightclubs, lodges, restaurants and casinos in the last 24 hours, of which 50 were found to be in violation of the operational guidelines, including consumption of alcohol on site and having clients enclosed in poorly ventilated spaces. According to the council's public relations manager, Mwaka Nakweti, businesses were served with notices, closed and their licenses revoked, and are expected to appear before the fast-track court by Thursday at the Lusaka City Council.
As Lusaka City Council, we have closed 50 bars, nightclubs and restaurants that were found annulling COVID-19 guidelines across the city. This follows a joint operation that we conducted together with the Ministry of Health as well as State and Council Police in Lusaka last evening. The operation revealed that despite calls from the local authorities for compliance towards COVID-19 guidelines, some bars, nightclubs and restaurants were still operating with no regard to public health guidelines whatsoever. The local authority will continue conducting inspections in all the constituencies, and those found abrogating the COVID-19 measures that have been set by government risk having their licenses revoked. We therefore urge business owners to adhere to the set preventive measures. The local authority will not relax in enforcing measures that will help fight against COVID-19 in the city.
The Ministry of Health has therefore urged members of the public to avoid such super spreader sites to save their own lives and those of their loved ones, as one of the surest ways of acquiring the COVID-19 is by going to such places. The ministry has further stated that business interests will not be placed above health and safety of Zambians. Liseli Kanyanga Mwanga, Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
Welcome back. Well, there you have it. That is a story there which we had on this day in 2021 pertaining to the Lusaka City Council and making sure that people comply to COVID-19 guidelines. Remember that the COVID-19 was a problematic subject in this country, just like other countries, and authorities had a tough time to make sure that they put in place the right measures to just contain the problem. And looking at that story there, in case you want to join us and give us your perspective on that story, you'll be dialing the number that is on your screen, as well as join us on our WhatsApp platform by leaving us that voice note, and we'll be able to read through your messages. Also leave us a text message, then we'll get to get interacting there. Interesting enough, that's a story pertaining to the Lusaka City Council. Now we move on to another story of the day that took place in 2021, which is a story that where we had an opinion poll that was conducted. Then the same opinion poll was regarding the 2021 general election, and this poll had put former President Edgar Lungu in front of the current President Hakainde Hichilema as the winner of the election. So that opinion poll there this day reminds us to say, well, somebody else did get it wrong there when it comes to that opinion poll. So let's get to listen to this story. Then we can also be getting your comments on the other side.
On the 4th of July 2021, the Political Association of Zambia, in collaboration with other stakeholders, released an opinion poll in which President Edgar Lungu emerged winner of the 2021 general elections with 44.5% of votes, followed by 30.3% going to Hakainde Hichilema. According to the poll, Fred Membe of the Socialist Party was leading the rest of the opposition at 3%, followed by Dr. Nevis Mumba of the MMD at 2%, with the rest shared amongst the remaining in the race to State House. This, however, is not settled very well amongst most opposition political parties. The People's Alliance for Change, PAC, has advised the people of Zambia not to pay attention to what they have termed as fraudulent election opinion polls being spearheaded by some state-managed organizations with no track record.
These organizations that are coming in to try and give opinion polls on what's going to happen in August are not credible organizations, and they are just stage managed to sway people's minds, to discourage people from voting, or to pave way for rigging. We would like to warn those that are actually working with these organizations to ensure that they stop, misleading the people.
On the other hand, New Hope Movement Multi-Party Democracy MMD leader Dr. Nevis Mumba says the opinion poll is simply propaganda meant to sway voters. Also adding their voice to the debate, UPND spokesperson Cornelius Mwetoa says the opinion poll is simply a concoction of the Patriotic Front, urging the public not to panic.
Concoction of the Patriotic Front. I've given you the names of the people who are behind this opinion poll and how they are now panicking, and I'm asking them to disassociate themselves from this state of affairs. So, people out there, maintain the cool in the manner you did over opinion polls that were carried in favor of Rupiah Banda. The people of Zambia want a Zambia. We want a better Zambia, a Zambia of decency, devoid of political violence, cadreism, corruption, a Zambia of food on the table, a Zambia where there is employment.
Liseli Kanyanga Mubanga, Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
There you have it. That was an interesting story that was done by Liseli Kanyanga regarding the opinion polls prior to the August 2021 general elections. And this election had predicted that then President Edgar Lungu was going to win the election, and that the current President Hakainde Hichilema was only going to be second. And to the contrary, the opposite was true. We saw that the Republican presidency went to one Hakainde Hichilema, and then President Edgar Lungu is now in opposition. So it gets to tell you that sometimes these opinion polls are not accurate, and it is one such example. So as we go forward, these are some of the things we need to be looking at, because at the end of the day, sometimes the estimates and the accuracy of the opinion poll needs to be closer to the truth. But that opinion poll was speaking to the contrary. So one wonders, how did they come up with the figures there? Those are issues we continue to ask. So now we continue to remind those who are charged with the responsibility of governance and civic actors to always strive to make sure that they do things based on professionalism as well as integrity. Now that's a story that reminds us as a country to make sure that we always stick seek to do the right things, and that story there was a prediction gone wrong. So now let's also look at another interesting story where the United Party for National Development, UPND, on this very day in the year 2021 was expressing concern pertaining to the monitoring over the printing of ballot papers in Dubai. The UPND had challenges to send a representative there, but they had to sort for a proxy to help them monitor in the interim while where they were still facilitating for someone to go and monitor the printing of ballot papers. So let's get to listen to this story. The Opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, has blamed the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, over its failure to send a representative to go and monitor the printing of ballot papers in Dubai. Party Secretary General Batuke Imenda claims they were assured by the ECZ. He believes the scheme could have been part of a ploy to stop the UPND from monitoring the printing of ballot papers in Dubai.
At ECZ, at which meeting we raised the issue of why our representative was not allowed or given an opportunity to go and observe. He told us that it was not only our person who is still struggling to have his visa approved, but again, like I said earlier on, Mr. Dylan Kasonde was also equally affected, and according to him was key.
He says what happened goes against the principles of holding free and fair elections.
That is represented by very senior people, so they are not in any way affected like us. So we felt this was not fair. We felt that was not good, and that we question the whole process and feel that whatever is happening is not fair to us as a party. It is not fair to democracy. It brings us back to a point.
In the meantime, UPND chairperson for elections, Garin Kombo, says the party has however sent a representative from London to go and monitor the process in Dubai while they are still facilitating the movement of their member from Zambia. He has since urged the party to remain calm as modalities have been put in place.
An individual of high standing from London into Dubai in order to catch up with the processes that are ongoing in Dubai. The current situation now is that since our representative, who is standing in for Mr. Njolamba to allow him to travel tonight or tomorrow, is going to be observing what is going on with the printing of the mayoral ballot papers. And we are hopeful that by the time they come to parliamentary, to council, and to the presidential ballot papers, the whole situation would have been contained.
The ECZ could not be reached for a comment by broadcast time. Patrick Soko, Camnet News. There you have it. That is one of the forgotten stories there that happened on the 5th of July of 2021. And in case you want to comment on this story, you can do so. And later on, we'll be opening up the phone line so where we can get interacting during the viewers' reaction segment with you, our dear viewers. But you can still leave us that message on our social media platforms. Remember that this program is also streaming live on our social media platforms, being Facebook as well as YouTube. So in case you want to interact with us, you can leave us that message And in case you are interested in those stories, you can equally give your comment because also those stories tend to remind us of where we are coming from and what we need to do going forward. Now, that's a story pertaining to the monitoring of the printing of ballot papers. So now those conversations have to be ignited further as we head towards the year 2024-2025. Because the printing of ballot papers is among critical processes that we undertake as a country under the electoral process. So this story will always be with us, and it tends to remind us of the need to do the right thing, of ensuring that we prepare adequately so that there is no one who cries foul at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, the credibility of the general election is determined from the process, from the time we have a government in office. It does not start at the time of the campaign period. No, it starts throughout the process when we are talking about electoral reforms, the amendments that are being made to the Electoral Act. All those issues form the basis of the election. And also talking about media coverage, it also assesses how is the media covering. It also goes to contribute to the credibility of the election. How are the citizens participating? How is the ECZ creating enough awareness so that people can understand and be able to take part in this important democratic process? All that process forms a part of the electoral process or electoral cycle, and it is important that every process is transparent as well as accommodates the facet of accountability so that everyone else feels satisfied and they do not challenge the outcome. So that's just a reminder there on that story that we're looking at. Now, we're also just going to take a short break, but when we'll be back, we'll look at emerging stories. And stick around, because today on the program we have a special guest who is going to help us discuss various issues happening in the area of current affairs. He's also going to discuss about some of the emerging stories that we are looking at today. Remember, we are also building on the stories such as a story that we covered as of yesterday, where the former First family had a press conference and they were raising issues pertaining to what they term as victimization by the current government. So keep it on Camnet and stay tuned. Get all the latest updates in court news only on Camnet TV. We take you and make you feel part of the court sessions through our in-depth coverage of the adjudication process. Get informed on those who have been arrested, delayed and denied the police bond or bail victims, persons taking plea, court adjournments, verdicts, and those administration issues in the judiciary. Camnet TV is on channel 274 on DSTV, channel 25 on GoTV, and find us on channel 106 on Topstar. You can also follow and give us a like on our social media platforms. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. Renglow, your smart irrigation partner.
It's time! Camnet TV brings to you an exciting kid show called My Creation. Join me, Sarah Chandamanga, as I get to interact with kids with special skills and talents between the age range of 9 to 17. This show will come to you every Saturday at 13:30 on Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Thank you for staying with us on the Lunchtime Cafe. I'm Patrick Soko, and I was looking at the Forgotten segment session, and after that now we take a look at some of the emerging stories. And among the emerging stories is a story where Chikankata area member of parliament Jacqueline Sambao has expressed happiness on how the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, is being rolled out in our constituency. The area member of parliament was speaking when she toured the agriculture storage shed and 2-by-3 bedroomed house at Wuche Primary School in Nasenga and Nzingu Ward, respectively. So let's get to listen to that.
In Nasenga Ward, which is one of the wards in Chikankata constituency, this is the maize shed which is being built under the 2022 CDF Constituency Fund. As area member of parliament, I saw the challenges of my people in the constituency. Chikankata has 2 chiefdoms, Chief Naluama and Chief Dennis Mwenda. Our people were collecting their fertilizer from Chief Dennis Mwenda, which is like 50 to 60 kilometers from here. Hence, as area member of parliament, I saw the challenges of my people, and it's one of the projects I proposed under the 2022 CDF that the maize shed should be constructed here in Nasenga. And I'm really happy with the contractor who is doing a good job. This project started in April, and this is first week of July. And you can see project progress, meaning that before the end of July, this project will be handed over to the community. Hence, it will be used for the 2023 physical. However, I would want to appeal to my able president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, for his policy direction of helping the Zambians by proposing a 2022 CDF of amount of 25,700. However, because he's a visionarized leader, he proposed a 28.7 million for 2023, meaning we'll have more development in our country, Chikankata included. Hence, as we all know that Chikankata is an agriculture area, you can't develop this area without concentrating on agriculture development. And I know that as an area member of parliament, in our 2023 budget, there was an issue of irrigation mechanization. Hence, I would appeal to those in charge of the agriculture sector that Chikankata is near Kafia River. They should come to Chikankata, should be one of the beneficiaries of irrigation mechanization, so that we help our local people to go into agriculture as a business. Because most of our people, they think that agriculture is just a business as usual. But agriculture is a business, and this is a sector that can change the economic activity of this country and add value to the development of this country.
Welcome back. There you have it. That is a story there coming from Chikankata area member of parliament Jacqueline Sambao, where she was expressing happiness at the pace at which the Constituency Development Fund, CDF projects are moving. And she's also happy that the president also did increase the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, from 25.7 million kwacha in the year 2022 to 28.3 million kwacha in the year 2023, and she's optimistic that the year 2024 the figure will even be better. So that's a story there we were looking at among the emerging stories. This story is likely to be among those that will come at the 1930 main news. And just now we take a look at another interesting story where UPND member Bene Ajombwa was addressing the media and was talking about the press conference pertaining to the former First family who were expressing concern that the current administration is rather victimizing them. And Mr. Achomba was saying, to the contrary, and that he was also suggesting that the press conference that was held there was an indirect message that the former President Edgar Lungu's immunity should be lifted. That's according to Bene Achombwa there. He was addressing the press this morning. So let's get to listen to this story. It's among the topical issues that are happening in Zambia.
Yesterday, around this time, we saw Mrs. Mwanza, the daughter to the former head of state. We all know her by the name of Tarsila Lungu. In a video where she says, for the last 1 year and a half, the New Dawn government has been on the Lungu's family, and she asked that the family should not be tried on the media, rather must be tried in a court of laws. I think I want to advise my sister that the best thing that they should have done was to keep quiet. The best thing that Tarsila Lungu could have done yesterday was to keep quiet, because no one is harassing who, number one. Nobody is prosecuting anybody here. What is happening now is the rule of law, colleagues from the media. I think we need to be very clear, and we need to understand that nobody is above the law. Nobody is above the law, number one. Number two, the law happens to be very blind. It does not see. All it does is to follow the person that has committed the crime. So if Tarsila Lungu has been invited by Anti-Corruption Commission, Drug Enforcement Commission, Dariso Lungu and others invited, it does not mean that the New Dawn government is targeting the first family. I think Mrs. Mwanza must realize that, serving in a public office, you are accountable to the people of Zambia.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. Renglow, your smart irrigation partner.
It's time! Camnet TV brings to you an exciting kid show called My Creation. Join me, Sarah Chandamangazage, to interact with kids with special skills and talents between the age range of 9 to 17. This show will come to you every Saturday at 13:30 on Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Join me, amazing Katamanda, on the weekly gospel show for those exciting and interesting interviews with your favorite gospel
Hold on to me when it's too dark to see. You cannot put your power back to.
Hallelujah. And this time around, we are bringing to you entertainment news and the countdown, as you guys are able to nominate your top 3 favorite music videos of the week. Remember, it's every Saturday at 10:45. You can also catch repeats every Monday at 10 hours. Camnet TV is not just another time.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Lunchtime Cafe, and we were looking at some of the emerging stories, the stories that are making the headlines as of today, and the stories that are likely to make it in the 1930 main news here on Camnet TV. Now, some of the topical stories that we are looking at today, fortunately enough, today we have a guest who's going to help us analyze and give his perspective on various current affairs. He is not a new face, especially when it comes to TV interviews here on Camnet TV, but we have hosted him on other programs. But on Lunchtime Cafe, this is the first time we are hosting him. He is none other than Mr. Dante Saunders, a political activist. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your program, and may I say a very, very good afternoon to all your viewers and listeners.
Thank you very much. And like I was saying, you are not new on this platform. And in terms of also giving advice to the nation pertaining to various issues, you've been there through and through, and we continue to learn from you. Now, interesting enough, Mr. Saunders, I have quite a number of issues I want to pick your views. You haven't served in various political, having seen administration come and go, and there's this topical issue pertaining to the fight against corruption. The government of President Hakainde Hichilema, ever since it took over office, among the key pronouncements was the fight against corruption. And we have seen that some of the people who served in the previous administration are among the major casualties. And those, although as this fight is going on, there's been a concern, and they're saying that this is political witch hunt. And what would you have to say about this fight?
Well, firstly, I want to say that you are very timid when you talk about corruption. Mm-hmm. I think if I can go back on history, it started off with petty stealing.
Yes.
Petty stealing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went on to corruption. What we are seeing today in the last government is outright plunder of the wealth of this nation. That's what you can call it. It's much worse than corruption. Mm-hmm. To me, I think that when you look at the people who are saying that the government is being unfair, they're hounding them down, and so on and so on, I ask you a simple question. Have you been questioned by the police for anything like that?
Not at all.
The people that were involved in the plunder of the wealth of this nation, I'm not saying that everybody is guilty. I'm not saying that everybody is innocent. But I'm saying that the police force, ACC, DEC, and indeed the judiciary have a right to question anyone or anybody who is perceived to have plundered the wealth of this nation in any way whatsoever. Because plunder was there. We are not going to hide it. And even today, we are talking about plunder in a worse form during President Lungu's reign of office. Let me give you an example. If anything goes wrong in this studio here, while we are being interviewed and so on and blah, 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 mm-hmm. and the interview may be bad, whatever the case may be, I think it's not, the fault does not lie only with you. Mm-hmm. It must lie with your management, with your top people, that must take the blame for whatever actions or whatever you do on this platform today. That's how it is. So in the case of the plunder of the wealth of this nation, President Lungu can never deny that he didn't know about this. I've been working with many presidents as they've gone to office. You know, I've been responsible for putting in a lot of government people in my humble contribution to this Zambia. And every president that has governed, you know, when you look at President Kaunda, look at his style of action, mm-hmm. there may have been petty thieves here and there, small little issues. Then come to democracy under the Chiluba regime. Mm-hmm. That's where now corruption in a small scale started. When you look at President Mwanawasa, he was ready to act on those small corruption issues. Then you come to Rupia Banda issue, and all hell started breaking loose. Then you come to President Sata, who wanted to do something about the corruption. But sadly, unfortunately, he died in the process. And a lot of people knew that President Sata was never going to stay the full 5 years. So many people took advantage of that. That's real. Sadly, President Sata left. Then came President Lungu, and, you know, the doors just opened to plunder. So there's no president can say that he didn't know what his people were doing. If your manager doesn't know what you are doing, then, you know, he's in the wrong business altogether. So for me, the blame of plunder of the wealth of this nation must sit squarely on the shoulder of the President Lungu. There's no question, and there's not running or beating about the point. That is a fact.
Interesting.
So what we are seeing with this government now, with HH, because of the happenings of the plunder and so on and so on and so on, and you know the reason why plunder has reached this level is because this country has never had a solid foundation, a political solid foundation, upon which you, if you become president, you can build your house on this foundation. Tomorrow you are thrown out. Dante Saunders is made president. I build my house on the next foundation. And all the people of this country, all that they are asking for, and rightfully so, is can you please give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, but to the people what belongs to us. You cannot have a situation where we continue in this issue where the rich become so powerful that they even want to control the politics of this country. Not only in this country, but they want to go even beyond. So those people who are complaining about being harassed by the police and so on, and so on, it's because they have issues to answer. And the police, there's no two rules in this government of HH, where one is for the very powerful and the other one is for the poor person. There's no two rules or justice, you know, in that line. So we are saying it, you know, we are happy that this government is looking at corruption. And I want to say, I want to add that on President HH's side, or UPND, if you want to say, they have got great people working there. Great people who are doing their job well. The police are doing their job well. They are now beginning to work. The ACC, the DEC, they're being led by young, vibrant people.
But others have argued, Mr. Saunders, that while the police are doing this, they are also infringing on people's rights. Like, for example, rights against torture. Like the people when they are being arrested, they are being harassed, and that, for example, they are also being detained before they could be explained to what are the cases they are facing. What do you have to say about that one?
Well, I mean, you know, sadly, those very same people are the, you know, me, I call it a gang. I just call it a gang. Were they not in Zambia when that last government that they are talking about, were they not in Zambia when they were seeing how they were running the country? When people were being picked up, where you could just get a party cadre just dreams he wants Saunders out or he wants HH out. They just dream the police are there to pick you up. How many times has HH been arrested for trumped up charges? Let me remind you once again, the last meeting that President Lungu had in the Copper Belt, just before the elections. What did he tell a group of people there? Just before election day. He told them, I will deal with HH ruthlessly when I'm sworn in. That same day he's going to be picked up. How many times didn't they pick up President HH?
So could this be revenge?
No, this is not revenge. This is not revenge. HH is not saying, do this to this one, do this to this one. No, he's not even touching, he's not even near that particular issue. They are only looking for sympathy from people when they're trying to point the finger at HH. I will never allow HH. HH came into power on the strength of he was going to rule this country with proper rules and regulations. That's why he won the election. You can't have a situation where you see your government, your own government, beating up people in town, guessing people at random. That guessing story is not over yet. But, you know, you cannot overlook the fact that that guessing took place under a regime that was ready to shift all the kind of problems that the country was going through onto opposition. So for me, I think HH is doing a great job. He's not interfering with the law. He's not saying, pick up this one, pick up that. No, the ACC is doing it. DEC is doing it. The police have a right to pick you up. They have that right. They have that mandate given to him not by this gang who are being picked up every day, no, but by the people of this country, 19 million people. We want to see rules and regulations in this country. We want this country to be governed the proper way. That's the only way we're going to develop.
Interesting. Now, in case you are just joining us, you are watching the Lunchtime Cafe, and in studio I have a political activist, Dante Saunders, and we are discussing these current affairs that have been happening in the country. And also on later on the program, we'll be tackling the issues pertaining to constitutional reforms. So in case you want to also join the conversation, you can leave us a message on our platforms, and the numbers are on your screens, so that you can also ask our guest a question in case you have one. Now, moving on with our conversation, Mr. Saunders, there's another interesting issue that happened as of yesterday. We saw children to the former president, Edgar Lungu, holding a press conference, and they were suggesting that they were being victimized. And somebody from the UPND, a UPND member, was suggesting that that press conference was an indictment, that probably former President Edgar Lungu's immunity should be lifted so that he can be able to clear his name through the courts of law. Let's talk about this issue pertaining to presidential immunity. What is your view on this?
My view on this year has been the view that I've always taken all my life. Especially it came out very clearly, and I hope a lot of people that were in the NCC can remember. When it came to the issue of immunity, what we wanted as a people, not as Dante, but as a people, is that the immunity must be given to the president while he is in office. While he is in office, that immunity must be there. But when the president leaves office, the day he leaves office, that immunity is taken away automatically. And then, given a period of time, say 90 days or 120 days, it is up to the people to decide. If we have any questions to ask about the direction that former president took us in, by word or by deed, whatever the case may be, it would be the time for us to put questions and see, where he went wrong, whatever the case may be. And if it is a deliberate act that plunder, as we've seen here in this particular case, took place under his watch, I think that would be time for us to bring in our findings So to say we must be given space. So we can ask all the questions that we need to ask. Because while a person enjoys that immunity, no one can ask him any questions with regards to how he ruled the country. That's how it is in the Constitution. Now, I was hoping that, or we were hoping that the immunity stays with him while he's in office. But when he's out of office for at least 90 days, the people should have the freedom of asking questions. And then after that, if it is clear that the president has not done anything wrong, then his immunity is given back to him again. Thereafter, it will make it now impossible for anyone to ask any questions. We can agree to that. But not the person leaves office, and then we have so many questions to ask, like in this case here, President Lungu, to be precise. We have so many issues that we want to ask him about, but I can't ask him. Neither can you, because he's protected by that immunity.
So would you suggest that, for example, are you suggesting that this parliament that is sitting, they could make the necessary changes to make sure that those suggestions you are talking about are accommodated, where the president only stays with his immunity while in office, and immediately they leave office, they can the immunity is lifted, then they can answer. After that, we give them back their immunity that can last forever.
Well, I don't think this is a parliamentary issue, really. You should not leave this issue to just parliamentarians. In fact, the whole issue of even the way MPs move about, the way the councillors move about, all that needs to be questioned again.
Yes.
This is the people's issue. And it can only come about by a referendum. Do we agree on A, B, C, D? If you leave it to parliamentarians, you leave it and it will continue all the time. They will be just yapping away, talking away, this, that. It will take centuries. But this must be driven by the people of this country. We must be able to tell our members of parliament, this is what we want. Period. We are not asking or begging. We are telling them what we want. So it can only be done by a referendum, properly. When you deal with issues which is concerning the Constitution, when you want to make any changes in the Constitution, it is the people's choice. You make it through a referendum, and then the Parliament carries on with the debate on that particular issue.
Interesting. Now that we have talked a little bit about the constitutional issues, Mr. Saunders, there is issues pertaining to constitutional reforms, but we are not moving an inch, because it was observed that there are some things we still need to work on pertaining to our constitution. For example, the issue pertaining to the presidential term limits still left many Zambians with a lot of unanswered questions, because initially many people thought President Lungu then never needed to stand, but to the contrary, the judiciary suggested otherwise, some judges suggested otherwise, and he was on the ballot. Now, this thing, for instance, Mr. Saunders, has not been cleared. So we may have another person who may also be found in the same situation, and who will continue going back and forth.
Well, this the issue of two-term issue is in the Constitution. But, with the past regime, what was the point of saying it's in the Constitution when they themselves didn't work according to the Constitution or abide by the Constitution? There was no way you could say, President Lungu, this is wrong, this is right. No way. It was either his way or PF's way, or no other way. So, I'm not surprised that they put in a lot of efforts to stand for the third term. I'm not surprised at that. They broke every rule and regulations standing for the third term. They thought they could just break the rules. Even now, like this year, while they're busy yapping away and trying to find somebody to lead them and on, people are saying to President Lungu, you must stand again. He cannot stand legally. Legally, he cannot stand. He's already passed his 2 terms. 2 terms. The Constitution is clear. 2 terms, finish. That's the end of the story. So they never won that particular debate, or whatever the case is. They never won the debate at all. They just had it their way. And nobody could talk about it or against it. You would be imprisoned. You know yourself, you would have been imprisoned.
There was another interesting issue that was part of the constitution. In your preamble, you did mention that most of this, the progressive clauses Zambians had suggested in the past, Mr. Saunders. Among the progressive clauses Zambians had chose was that of making sure that ministers are appointed outside of parliament. And it was removed when they were enacting this constitution. Do we still need such a law, Mr. Saunders?
Well, you know, for that particular one, you know, again, we leave it to the government, and it's, to me, that's not so much of a very important issue. Mm-hmm. But what we needed to do is to make sure that ministers are ministers, they serve on our term and our time, and if you're a member of parliament, you're getting paid. Mm-hmm. If you're a politician, you are not a civil servant. A civil servant and a politician, there's two different issues. Two different issues. You are a politician. You are given a job as a politician to be a member of parliament. As such, you know, the question of gratuity should not be arising. There is a pending debate on that particular issue. Mm-hmm. There was a constitutional review done by Mwangala Zalomas on the members of parliament. But that particular question of, you know, gratuity, you know, this is parliament. They shut it down and things like that there. You can understand why they shut it down. But you see, that is why I say, you know, the main thrust of most of our issues in that constitution should not be left to parliamentarians. Mm-hmm. These people come and they go. They come and they go. People will always be there.
Do you think we still also need term limits for members of parliament, like we have in the case of presidents?
No, I don't think so.
Or they need to continue to serve in perpetuity?
No, I don't. Yes, no. Members of parliament, you know, number one.
Like it can be Saunders this year, 5 years. Another, again, Saunders again, Mr. Saunders again.
But if you are delivering to the people, and the people within that constituency say, no, we like this guy, he has brought development and so on and so on and so on. They have a right to continue to say, we want him to stand there again. So we don't want that clause to be in that particular issue. But the head of state, definitely the president, that is where we're saying 2 terms only. But for a member of parliament and for even councillors, if you're a good councillor and you're serving well, you know, the people will tell you, they will show it to you by saying, we'll give you another term.
But there's been also concerns that these members, if they are not performing, Zambians should have the right to recall them.
Absolutely.
But how do we address that? Because sometimes this non-performing member of parliament would remain just in office, getting those allowances at the expense of delivering.
That is where Mwangala Zalomas, with the constitutional making process, you know, she was gathering, and according to the wishes of the people, they want to have the right to recall any member of parliament who is not delivering to the people. Indeed, even recall even your councillor, if your councillor is not performing well. They want to have the right. And I think they should have the right to recall. The issue now is we have expressed what we want. It's now a question of sitting and debating how do we go about it. Because you also can't have a situation where, you know, like for instance, a councillor is trying his level best to deliver, but people somehow who don't see the benefits gang up against him and they remove him. You know, it's things like that. We need to find a way and a formula in which we can approach this particular issue of recalling a member of parliament and recalling councillors. I think that, you know, when if this thing should come up again, we need to sit squarely with the party in particular to say you brought this person to stand in here and this is the issue. I think we want him removed, and we leave it to the party to do something. But anyway, look, let me not waste too much time on this one. I think we need to brainstorm amongst all of us of how best we can do it. But for me, the question is we should not leave a member of parliament for 5 years who doesn't even go and visit his constituency. Come on. Before elections, before you put him into office, he was there every day, talking to people every day. All of a sudden, he's in parliament. He doesn't even answer the phone calls coming from his constituency. He doesn't attend to meetings, whatever the case may be, development meetings. He doesn't attend to these kind of things. He doesn't even go and visit. Those are the kind of members of parliament that people don't want. You know, the councillors, to me, a councillor does a lot of work for the people because he is the direct link between the people and the member of parliament. He is the direct link between the people and the president. So for me, I think even the councillors, they should even get a higher salary than they are getting now. You know, those are the people, if you say, give them gratuity, I'll be happy to say, yes, I think some of these people performed well. Because a councillor can't run away from his people. He's there in that particular ward. So, you know, look, there's a lot of things. I think now that we've got a good government in place, we have a great opportunity to clean this constitution up, to clean it thoroughly.
How can we undertake that process, and how urgent is it according to you?
It should have been done, you know, immediately after President Kaunda left office. It should have been done in MMD days. But nevertheless, it's never too late to do something about the constitution. There's many issues, bottlenecks in that constitution. For instance, look at the time when, not this last election, but previous election, when we all knew that HH won their election. We all knew it. But what did PF do? Because they were in control of the police, the ACC, the DEC, they were in control of judiciary, everything. What did they do? They come up, lodge your complaints. You lodge your complaints. You want to provide the evidence now. They say within 14 days. Then came this idea that weekends are also included. So therefore you are late to lodge the issue. As Dante Saunders, me, and a few other people, I took the judiciary to court over that particular issue. And I'm not HH. I'm not a politician. So for me, I went straight for the jugular vein. And I think the people knew very well that I was in a no-nonsense mood. We went there. And, you know, the rest is history. For me, I felt, you know, that the judgment that was given on that 14 days issue was, you know, sometimes these things bother you so much that, you know, you got no words to express. What do you do when your hands are tied? I told the chairman that time straight, you, Mana, you cannot come up with a judgment that is going to suit the people because your boss will fire you tomorrow. That's what I basically said to him at the end of the day. But I know I won the case.
Interesting enough. Now, when we're talking about reforms, there's also something that we cannot run away from. That's the issue pertaining to the Public Order Act, which is also being reformed as the Public Gatherings Bill. Mr. Saunders, it is an interesting law, but however, quite some reforms have been undertaken. We saw that the draft was submitted to the Ministry of Local Government and the Ministry of Justice, respectively, and we are still waiting for its enactment. First of all, what would be your overall view pertaining to the Public Order Act regarding its history that we have with it?
You see, again, we go back to square one. We are now talking the issues is in Parliament. That's where the issues are being debated. They are being discussed in Parliament. This is my differences with parliamentarians. Not that I don't respect them. I respect them very much. I respect councillors. I respect all our leaders very much. But this is the wishes of the people. Again, if we are looking at that constitution, refining, bringing this thing to life, I think the people must have a direct involvement in this particular issue. We should be in a position to say to the members of Parliament in Parliament, this is what we want. We want a black book. That's what we want. Don't come and give me a green book or a red book or white. No, bring me the black book. I want the black book. This is the difference between a referendum, demands through a referendum, and going through Parliament. So sensitive issues like this particular one, you take it to Parliament, it takes a long time for them to agree. But the beauty about this particular government is at least it is taken there. They are now debating the issues. All I can say is that we are going to see a lot of these issues, unbundled properly for the good of this nation. We can see it coming.
We've seen that under the UPND administration, the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, is among the major flagship programs under the budget. And the 2023 national budget, we saw it increase from 25.7 million kwacha in 2022 to 28.3 million kwacha for the year 2023. Now, the implementation, so we are getting divergent views. Others, it is working for others. But for others, they are claiming it is not working. But overall, as political activists, what do you have to say about this issue pertaining to the CDF, and which is a major developmental program?
Look, there's 19 million people in Zambia. So when you bring in something like this here, you know that it's the beginning of development. Everybody is eager to get a share of it. But it's not possible that you can divide and give everybody a share out of that particular issue. So that is the first thing that we must remember. And I think also, when you look at the constituency development funds, it's a great step towards development of this country. A great step. Can you imagine in some of these rural areas that amount of money? I don't even know whether they'll be able to spend it. But they have a lot of things to do. That money is given to them for development. How many of those people there can develop that, build roads, build school desks, build hospitals, and so on and so on and so on. It's numerous. Yes, I know it's not enough to make 19 million people just overnight happy. It's not, but at least it's the beginning. When we look at the past regime, if you look at all the development that constituency funding is going to bring, in the last regime, let's say you had 100 people, I'm just giving an example, who were looking for jobs, couldn't find jobs. The following year, it increased to 105. Next following year, it increased to 110. This government is saying, now, we've got 100 people, at least in the 100, at least let 2 or 3 people begin to develop. It's a start. It's a start. But obviously, the 90-some odd people there will still feel they should be part and parcel of that development. So we are saying, please just hang on, hang in there. There's a lot of issues there, teething problems have to be solved and what have you on that particular development funds that you're talking about, the CDF and so on and so on. Many things have got to happen. They've got to get used to the idea and, find out where the bottlenecks are. And it's something new, but at least it's a start. We are starting. God willing, if we continue like this with this particular program, and other governments come in and, as government will come in and go, and they continue with this particular project, I think you'll find that in a very short time, maybe in about 20 years' time, with this development, that we will be as good as our partners in Botswana. If I can remember correctly, during my time, Botswana had nothing. You could park I always used to tease my friends there in Botswana that, you park your truck in Botswana, the front part of your truck is in Gaborone. The back end of the truck is outside of Gaborone. That's how small the town was. Look at it today. There's no corruption, there's no plunder, there's no this, there's no this. People are working, people are happy. Things are working. In fact, Botswana is a typical example of how a good governor is supposed to be. If they miss accounting for maybe just 10 pula, they spend a lot of money just to find out where that 10 pula went. Yeah, it costs you 10 kwacha just to go and get your reg card. You have to pay somebody. That's petty corruption. But at least that's beginning to stop now. People are beginning to see that where you find somebody who would charge you and wants to give you, charge you for this kind of services, you must just simply say no. We're not going to stamp out corruption completely overnight. It's impossible. But at least if we come up with strong laws, we start off with a plunder, ban that completely. Because now plunder is just by a handful of people. 20, 30 people are involved in the plunder.
What laws can be used to directly fight corruption?
Well, we must look at other constitutions. Again, you're bringing me on a very issue here that I really, I'm not prepared to debate over this particular issue. But my view, let's look at other constitutions. If you go to any of the Saudi countries where there's Muslims and so on and so on, you leave your watch, your jewelry and everything on your table. You go out to the toilet, you come back, you find everything is there. Do you know why? Because if you steal that issue, they don't even waste their time taking you to court here and there, blah, blah. They just simply cut your hand off. Now, if we had a law like that in this country here, where plunderers have their hands cut off.
But we have even removed the death penalty.
No, I'm just coming to that. I'm coming to that. Where you cut, just say you cut somebody's hands off for stealing something, these plunderers. A lot of these people would have been walking with no arms today. We wouldn't have given them a chance. And then again, you talk about the death penalty. Yes, I'm not agreeing with my president that we must abolish the death penalty just like that day. I think that is a very important issue to put in the Constitution. I think the people have a right to also say yes or no by way of referendum. And I'm on records as having said that there. But then again, we also must look at the issue of how is our partners around the world. Do we want to be the only ones coming in with the death penalty? Okay, now if we take the death penalty out, which we must agree, let's say take it out. If we take it out, can we think about the plunderers? What are we going to do with these plunderers? You see, if I'm the Minister of Health, and I steal $1 million from there, can you imagine how many people will die in hospitals because they never have medicines?
A lot.
You see, I can come and kill you with a knife, boom. I've killed one man in the past, then I am hung or I'm killed. That was the law. I killed one man. But in this case here, I steal all that money and all the hospitals run dry of drugs and stuff like that. I haven't killed them all one by one with a knife, no. But I've killed them because I stole the money that was going to give them drugs in the hospitals. Or you stole the money because the roads here are so badly done. You know, somebody stole money on the roads the roads were not done properly. You have an accident, you kill yourself, a bus rolls over, kills all the passengers because of the damage on the road. That's, you know, to me, I would say, if I had my way, I'd say the death sentence is the only thing.
No.
And to be tried, not through the courts, this our democratic courts, to be tried by a court, military tribunal or something of the sort. However, this is far-fetched. Let's,
now,
you know.
let me look at this before my last question as we wind up our conversation, Mr. Saunders, interesting enough, would be, you say there's this government that is willing to listen to the people, that is willing to develop this country. Another interesting question I would also ask you is that among the commitment of this government was to make sure that the cost of living is addressed, especially that many vulnerable citizens are complaining that the cost of living has remained the same, just like the PF left it. If anything, it has worsened. What message do you have on that subject?
You know, I think, you know, it's time, you know, that we really sit around the table with all the manufacturers and the business houses and so on and so on and so on. You know, for me, I see a issue of people just wanting to make high profits overnight. Really want to make high profits overnight. We should sit down and say, gentlemen and ladies and so on and so on, how can we together try to control the cost of living in our country? You cannot, government itself cannot do it without the support of the ordinary person in business today. Even in your company, we should be able to come and say right now, how best can we lower the cost? You know, you do a lot of publicities and so on and so on. We would like to see that cost reduce a little bit, you know, bring it down. So, you know, unless we sit and dialogue amongst ourselves, that's one way to look at these things. But then again, you know, in reality, if you look at the world markets today, everybody, the cost of living is going up. There's not one country that you can point a finger and say that cost of living is coming down. There's not one. Things are going up and up and up because things are becoming more difficult to obtain now. You know, it's more difficult to get wheat, for instance. It's more difficult to get maize. It's more difficult to get meat, and you know, things like that. You know, we have to sit together, have this endow issues of ours that we used to sit in the Kaunda's days. I remember President Kaunda used to bring a lot of us together, and you know, we used to sit there, and I know that I never used to agree with a lot of issues, you know, and we used to table those issues. We didn't like this, we didn't like that, we didn't like this. At least we were given an opportunity to discuss. So most of this, the high cost of living is also the fact that, you see, we have a government here today, you know, who is not hiding anything, and we are not going to, subsidize issues like fuel, like petrol, and things like that, because these subsidies can also kill you, you know, in the long run. So most countries, you know, are doing away with the subsidies. That's why the cost of living is going up in the world. So maybe we need higher salaries.
Because the argument would be that no country does not subsidize its citizens, especially critical sectors. Now, like you say, the aspect of salaries also now, but the salaries most of the time are stagnant. And how do you now strike a balance between the two?
You know, this particular debate will take, you know, it will take a 2-day program. All I'm saying is it's a very interesting topic. It's a topic that we must have. We must have. You can't have a political activist, you know, with me, I'll be shouting, yeah, pay people a higher salary. But we have the technocrats who have a look at a different view altogether. Exactly. And, you know, we have the ordinary villager or the marketeer there who want to also have an input, you know. We need somebody to bring us together. Let's, you know, it's not an argument or a fight. You know, it's not to say you are against the government if you are coming up with a good idea or good points that you are raising. You know, that kind of behavior or thought is out. It's gone out. Today, if you got an idea or something of the sort, you go and see State House.
Interesting. So this is the beginning of the conversation, Mr. Saunders. We'll continue to engage you on various national matters to just get your input and your advice pertaining to how we continue to govern the country. Thank you for making it on the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your program, and I apologize if I made anybody annoyed, but this is my humble feeling.
Interesting. Well, they say democracy is about tolerating views that you do not like from someone you might not like. And here on Camnet TV, we respect the value of opinions. Hence, every opinion counts. And we continue to make sure that collectively we bring you programs aimed at developing the country. At the end of the day, collectively, we have the country to develop. Remember to join us tomorrow for the Lunchtime Cafe. This has been Patrick Soko. Keep it on Camnet.